They say that America is the land of opportunity. For generations, the American dream has provided a roadmap. Work hard, aim high, and success and happiness will follow. But what if we've all been lied to? Could it be that instead of being an ideal to aspire to, the American dream is actually holding us back from achieving true happiness and fulfillment? The American dream, as we know it today, dates back to 1931. The Great Depression was devastating the US. Banks were collapsing, families were losing their homes, and the economy felt hopeless. Despite all this hardship, historian and investment banker James Truslow Adams described a hopeful vision. The American dream is that dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement. It was a promise of predictable upward mobility, a society where anyone could succeed through hard work and talent. This was in stark contrast to Europe, where rigid class systems meant that wealth and status were passed down, often quite literally from father to son. Primogeniture, a common European practice, handed entire estates to the eldest son, meaning younger sons, and especially daughters, had little hope of financial success right from birth. European nobility and the church further prevented economic mobility through social norms, restrictive taxes, religious tithing, and limiting access to education and mentorship. Upward mobility for most Europeans was simply out of reach. But in the US, the promised land to many immigrants in the early 1900s, your background didn't set your limits. Anyone had the potential to rise above their station. During the Great Depression, this dream gave people something to hold on to. No matter how bad things got, if you just rolled up your sleeves and worked hard, you could build a prosperous life. After World War II, this ideal reached new heights as the economy boomed. The American dream was everywhere, in ads, movies, political speeches, all reinforced by larger-than-life success stories, who became the faces of the American dream. Self-made men, and eventually women, who started with nothing and climbed their way to the top. Icons like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and the world's first billionaire, John D. Rockefeller, and later, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk. They became more than mere people. They were symbols of what was possible, inspiring millions to believe that this irresistible American dream was not only achievable, but right there for the taking.
Open your boxes. Open your boxes. 1, 2, 3. You get a car! 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 Everybody gets a car!
But behind these promises lies a darker reality. For every person who American dreamed their way to the top, there are thousands or even millions who end up worse off, not just financially, but psychologically too. Why? The American dream promises that hard work practically guarantees success. But the reality often looks very different, especially for those born into low-income families. A massive study by Harvard and UC Berkeley economists studied 40 million children born in the US between 1980 and 1991. Using tax records, they examined their parents' wealth when the kids were growing up and compared that to the grown children's actual income at age 30. This allowed them to look at how the economic circumstances changed over 3 decades. The data showed that for those born into the poorest 20% of families, only about 1 out of every 13 kids made it into the top 20%. Over 60% remain in the bottom 2 income brackets over 30 years later. So for many, poverty is inherited. Social scientists call this the stickiness of poverty. They point to barriers like limited access to quality education, under-resourced neighborhoods, and systemic inequities, including racism, that hold people back and often make it just not possible to move up. When we look beyond the US, the same study revealed that upward mobility for lower-income Americans lags behind many other developed nations. In places like Canada, Denmark, and Sweden, people born into poverty have a much better chance of moving up. In other words, the American dream is not likely to happen for most Americans, and it's not even uniquely American. Yet surveys consistently show that over 80% of Americans still believe that hard work alone is enough to achieve financial success. It's an alluring idea, that with enough talent and grit, any obstacle can be tackled. But when life's complexities, such as economic downturns, job layoffs, or family emergencies get in the way, Those who don't make it are often left feeling as though there must be something wrong with them. We end up blaming ourselves, internalizing these setbacks as personal failures, in large part because the American dream is so closely tied to individual merit. Studies show that nearly 70% of Americans report feeling not good enough for not meeting society's high standards. This silent weight, the feeling of falling short despite your best effort, chips away at your self-worth and erodes happiness. To make matters worse, the American dream's emphasis on personal achievement and self-sufficiency has promoted a culture of individualism and overwork that leads to unexpected isolation. As people become busier with career advancement and wealth accumulation, something has to give, and human connection is often what gets sacrificed. Research shows in recent years fewer people are joining social clubs, religious groups, or participating in community activities, meaning they have fewer support networks than ever when challenges arise. The psychology research is clear that strong social connections are crucial for happiness. Yet Americans spend more time working and less time with friends and neighbors. A recent study found that 60% of Americans report feeling lonely, with young adults experiencing this the most. This is especially concerning, given other findings that those with fewer social connections face a 26% higher risk of early death compared with those in close-knit communities, who tend to live longer, happier lives. All this raises a question. If the American dream is driving us toward feelings of failure and ultimately isolation, loneliness, and even killing us prematurely, how can we possibly think of it as an attractive path to happiness? It seems like it's time to rethink it entirely. What if we reimagined the American dream, but centered it around happiness and fulfillment? Though perhaps it's time to call this the global dream, since these goals are fundamentally human, not uniquely American. What would it look like based on social science research from the past 2 decades? First, while we clearly need to move beyond wealth as an end goal, we can't ignore the fact that everyone needs an initial foundation of financial stability. Research consistently links poverty to lower levels of happiness and well-being. In fact, studies show that people experiencing poverty report up to 40% higher rates of depression and anxiety. Only when financial needs are basically met can people start to achieve true happiness and deeper fulfillment. From there, our reimagined dream needs to strive to redefine success by shifting the focus away from external goals and towards ones that align best with each of our unique and individual values. Research has shown that people who prioritize intrinsic goals, like personal growth or mastering new skills, experience 20% greater life satisfaction, because pursuing internal goals is inherently more meaningful, and their rewards are longer lasting. In this vision, happiness is not an end to achieve, but an ongoing journey shaped by intentional, meaningful choices. Aligning goals to values would help counteract the constant drive for social comparison. When each person pursues their unique value-based objectives, upward comparisons begin to lose their hold, as others may not be striving for the same things. To create an even more compelling, reimagined dream, we need to reprioritize our connection with other people, though what that looks like for each individual person could vary a lot. Researchers have found that social ties reduce the risk of depression and even extend lifespan. Countries like Finland, Denmark, and the Netherlands prioritize communal well-being, and they consistently rank among the happiest, showing that strong community orientation supports individual growth without the relentless pressure to make it on your own. Ultimately, the dream that we chase shapes the lives that we lead. By embracing a vision that prioritizes meaning, fulfillment, and connection over wealth, prestige, and accumulation, perhaps we can rediscover a true path to happiness, hopefully one that leaves room for everyone. As Albert Schweitzer, a philosopher, physician, and humanitarian, wrote in 1936, "Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success." All that sounds good, but who's going to help us when we head into work and develop a case of the Mondays?
I gotta get out of here. I think I'm gonna lose it.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
In our next video, we'll look at the role that work plays in happiness through the eyes of Office Space's hero, Peter Gibbons.
Now all I gotta say to you, warning is gonna be crumb snatching, coochie eating pranksters.
There will be many spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's pretty funny, and then click here to dig deeper. All our references and our recommended books on these topics are below. Buying through one of these links helps us grow the channel without any cost to you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay human.